We're already recording.
Okay, you should clap.
Everyone. Okay.
That's great.
Perfect.
Clap one more time.
And we're live. Welcome
Live from Studio Something in New York City.
We're live in Tacoma, Washington.
Chica Channel.
Welcome to the Chica Channel. Well, guys, today we have a fun episode because we are going to do a dating advice with a Q&A. Mm-hmm. Initially,
Everything we did wrong. Just kidding.
we can talk about our mistakes for sure. But essentially,
I make mistakes.
Cut.
We're cutting all that out?
No,
this is
we're
good stuff.
rolling with this. So we were initially going to just do like a dating advice from Jeff and I, but then Lydia stumbled upon Tacoma,
Lydia forgot
Washington.
her passport,
Yeah.
and she needed a place
God
to stay.
knew you needed a resident single to come on the pod.
That's right.
So that's what I'm here.
So we decided
Sure.
it would be fun. We decided it would be fun to have Lydia kind of interview us or ask us some questions. So we had her put a little Q&A box on our Instagram. And so we're just going to kind of go through some dating questions and advice. And yeah, so join us for the ride. Lydia,
Okay. I've got the cues. Shout out to everyone who sent in some questions.
shout out.
Grateful for you. Okay, I think a good place to start would be, how do you start dating? Obviously, you guys are married, but a lot of us out here in the world, we're single.
Yep.
And there is a very real, how do you do you wave a flag? Do you wear a t-shirt? Do you update a bio? How do you start? How do you say, hey,
I'm single and ready to
I'm
mingle.
single and ready to
Your
mingle.
Facebook status says single.
No,
Or
it's
it's complicated. What does it's complicated mean? Have we ever figured that out?
No. True.
Great.
Now you guys are in the hot seat. This is fun.
Yeah.
I'm taking over the Chica channel
Roles
today.
reversed. You're hired.
Okay, so the first thing I would ask is, how do you even start dating? How do you even get, is it just an age thing? How
When
do
a
you get into it?
man loves a woman. This is a great question.
Thank you. Do you have an answer?
How do you start dating? Well, I think this is a dude's thing. I think you need to ask a girl out on a date. I think especially in Christian circles, I'd say this is something, right? Ring by Spring, like any college, any ministry school, church, there's this weird fishbowl syndrome where we were at the zoo today, and you go to the aquarium and you see all the fish, and it just can feel like that. And there's sometimes this weird pressure I got to get married.
Yeah.
And so dating no longer becomes a get to knowing someone process, and it's like the first date is like an engagement.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really unhealthy way to look at dating. So I think you got to look at dating as more like, I'm getting to know someone, and I'm trying to figure out, do I even like being a friend to this person? It's like intentional friendship. It's not, I'm not courting you to be my wife in 2 months. It really is. It's like, are we going to be friends? Dating needs to be 90% fun, 10% serious. In those first 3 months, really, you're just being friends. So how do you start dating?
Yeah.
I would just say, for a dude, it's like, is there a girl you want to get to know more? Just say, hey, let's go get some coffee. And ladies, stop making it weird. Stop making it weird. Like, oh my God, so-and-so asked me out on a date and they want to get married. It's like we get in, Girl Squad gets all crazy and the talk of the town. And we just need to kind of level the dating thing and just let it be about, I'm just trying to, let's just understand this. Everyone's looking for someone.
Yeah.
We're relational people. We're relational beings. We're made for this. And so everyone's looking. If you're single, you're looking. That's never not a thing.
Yeah.
You're looking. And so let's just all understand that. And everyone's just trying to figure out who do they like and who do they want to spend life with.
Yeah.
So let's make dating less weird. To start dating, just go and ask someone out for a coffee. Get to know them.
What about the girls who. So I mean, I went like 6 years.
Yeah.
And no one asked me out. In a community, all of that stuff. So I guess I'm just wondering advice for, because it's easy to say, okay, guys ask people out. So that's would be an issue that needs to be solved. But then the girls, like, there are so many girls out there that probably really want to date, but no one's asking them. So then what is that? Is it a timing thing? Is there...
Tinder. You just download Tinder, swipe right on as many guys.
Oh my gosh,
you
stop.
I'm kidding. It was a joke.
It was a joke. I would say when I was like, I mean, every girl that I know wants to be married one day. And I think that some of the best advice I got was to ready myself and like go after, like, what is God saying over my life? What is he saying? How can I develop and mature as a woman of God? And also, like, make myself available, like, not in a weird way where I'm, like, you know, making posts about it, like, or something. But it was like, okay, I'm going to, like, go after God as hard as I can. I'm going to fast and pray. I'm going to ask God to, like, mature me, to make me into everything he's, like, created me for, originally designed me to be. And then I'm, like, I want people to know, like, I'm single. Like, I want people to know, like, I would date someone if they asked me out. And I think, honestly, it's your job to kind of, like, get out there and hang out with people and hang out with different friend groups. And, you know, like, you're not going to just get asked out on a date by sitting on your couch. You know, you do have to, like, kind of put yourself out there, not in, like, a weird, inappropriate way, but just, like, okay, I'm going to, like, go and hang out with this friend group, and I'm going to, like, see, and I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to talk to all the guys there, just, like, you know, just a little conversation here and there. It doesn't have to be anything super serious. Like, I think just, like, getting your personality out there and showing, like, this is who I am, and I'm fun, or, you know, I like doing this, or whatever it may be. So I would say, like, ask God to, like, just grow you in the way he needs to grow you even before you're ready for a relationship, and then put yourself out there and go to the events, go to the things, and just kind of make your face like a familiar face, and then people will start being interested in growing friendship with you. Girls will be interested in becoming your friend. Guys will be interested in getting to know you more.
I think what you just said there is key. It's like, it's not just about going and it's just being a good human being. Like having, like, I feel like for ladies specifically, like, I feel like sometimes girls, you know, maybe get, like, depressed, no one's asking me out, and you begin to isolate. And I feel like that's the worst thing you can do. You stop taking care of yourself, you know, you smell a little bit, like you haven't done your hair in a week. Like, I'm just like, those are all things that I think that are super important. Like, put yourself together. Like, I'm not saying you gotta dress inappropriately and try to, like, get everyone to look at you. Just put yourself together. Do your nails. Do, you know, like, you know, do your hair, like, dress decent, you know? I think those are all things that are super important, so it knows, like, hey, like, you stand out among the rest because you put yourself together. And then that not only was going to get you, like, probably, you know, a date, but it's going to get you friends. It's going to get you, people are going to like being around you because there's, like, that's confidence. That's, like, knowing, being sure in your identity. I think that all that stuff is super important. So it's not just even about finding a dude, but finding friends. I think you're going to find ladies that
just know who you are, know what God says about you, and then that confidence is going to wash over you in a way where you're going to feel like you're able to, like, put yourself out there.
And know that relationship is not going to fix all your problems.
Yeah.
It's not. Like, you got to go to the Lord.
Dating isn't the goal.
Yeah, dating's not and marriage is not the end goal.
Yeah.
The end goal is to have that vibrant walk with Jesus. And if you have that, you're going to find an epic husband. You're going to find an epic wife. If you're a dude watching this podcast, welcome to the Chica Channel.
It's good. Okay, so kind of in the same, this is going to be a popcorn.
We love
dating
it.
apps.
We love it.
Oh.
Go.
Me or him?
Anyone.
Yes and no.
Do a quick pop.
Pop.
I think dating apps, because I've had friends, and we just live in a digital age, so, like, I've had friends that have met on dating apps, I've had friends that have met on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, so I know that stuff.
Those are not dating apps.
Right, but debatable. Depends how you use it. I feel like there's better places to have more authentic, deep, could probably help you. There's just something about shared experiences. Like, so church, ministry schools, hobbies, hometown, those things, like, that is a great place because it's shared experiences, and it alleviates some of the, like, what a dating app is, you're basically rating people based off what they love. Oh, they like dogs. That's so great. Swipe. Like, that's shallow. And I think I'm so great. Rachel and I had shared experience living in Kona and being a part of our ministry. And I think that helped.
Yeah.
I
would say my pop would be not preferable or like the first choice. But I think if you find yourself that you're like, in the middle of nowhere, there's hardly any people to meet, like, and I think seasons come and go like that. So I would say my first choice I would say no to a dating app. I would say, like Jeff, meet people in person to see like authentic, like who their authentic selves really truly are, and then like, are they stacking the chairs at church? Are they, like, you can kind of see character.
Stack those chairs.
Stack the chairs. Hashtag stack the chairs if you want to date.
But I carry like 4 chairs at a time. Should I stop doing that?
Get it, girl.
Strong independent.
You're ready for a date. But I think just like being able to see someone's character, being able to see someone's personality, like it helps just to be in person. And even if you're not like interacting with them really closely, you see it from a distance and you actually can see like, oh, I do actually admire that about that person. I would like to get to know them. Where, like he said, it's a screen, a picture, and you can't really see.
And anyone can be anyone.
Yeah. Catfishing, it's a real thing. So I think I would say by case, like certain cases, case by case.
Okay, so we're kind of taking us through the story of beginning to date. One question someone had, which I think is really interesting, is, okay, so, now I'm a young girl and I've done the work with God, I know who I am. I'm not only hanging out with a bunch of married people and I'm hanging out with singles. I'm vibing, I'm having a good time, I'm doing my hair, my nails are fixed, all that good stuff.
Do you feel like this is where you're at currently?
I do. I'm like, I saw her nails are done. I saw her hair was done. Her makeup's on.
She doesn't just hang out with us
anymore.
I don't.
I used to. I hit a point where I was like, all of my friends, like every guy in my life right now is like married to my friend, which is great. I love you guys, and you guys have been so great for me. But then I was like, I can't just hang out with like 2-year-olds and married couples. I gotta spice it up, and I did, and it's been an adventurous year.
How about that?
Okay, so, I think oftentimes we all have like an idea of someone we'd want to be with, or the list, and sometimes that list can be super superficial, or sometimes it can be less official. And so I'm wondering, like, what extent should you hold on to your list?
Talk about that blonde surfer who wanted to marry so badly.
Yeah, so for me personally, I'm a very adventurous person, and I love being outside. I love doing activities. I love adventure. And I think I moved to Maui when I was 18 for YWAM, and I had always pictured myself with like some surfer dude, long blonde hair, like totally love the outdoors. And that was honestly just like kind of my imagination. Like I was like, oh, this would make sense if I was married to someone like this, because then we would just like surf our life away and it'd be super fun. And I think when I like go to the core of it, like the list, I think like the characteristics and like I don't know, I just always like, I had a list, but it was more like, instead of like the blonde surfer was in my head, but then really I was like, I want a guy who's like humble and who serves and who loves Jesus, can play guitar. Like some of that was like a little whatever, like superficial, but I think I just was like, the way he looked actually didn't, like I wanted to be attracted to the guy that I dated and got married to, but it wasn't like, when I got down to it, like when Jeff and I met, like I was never like, oh my gosh, here's my husband, this is it. I was like, it was like, wow, I'm getting to know him as we're friends. He's super funny. He's super outgoing. Like, I'm really attracted to his personality. Like, we get along really well. He's like witty and sarcastic at times, which I really thought was fun to like, you know, just joke around with and stuff. And then as I saw his character, I was like, oh, he's like actually really loves God, and he's like hungry for God, and like he's hungry for his presence. And it's like that like blonde surfer in my head just kind of like naturally went away because I was
a chump.
blonde surfer boy, you're a chump in comparison to my husband. And I married someone who hates the ocean, hates outdoors.
Respect the ocean.
He respects the ocean, so he doesn't go in it. No, and we see past that now. Like, it's like not that big of a deal. Jeff will be like, I'll be like, can we please go to the beach? He's like, yeah, of course. I'm gonna sit under the shade the whole time. I'm like, that's great. At least we're at the beach. And Jeff likes being in coffee shops. Jeff likes being indoors. My friend Jenny jokes that she wants to get him a pillow that says "The Great Indoors." Like, you know how people have those pillows, the outdoors. Funny. So she's like, I'm gonna get him that. So anyway, all that to say, the list. I think the like bones of the list of like a man who loves God, a man
values.
The values.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. The values. And then the outer stuff just kind of like doesn't really matter. And it's a little superficial when you're like, I need to marry a blonde. You know, I think it's just like, at the end of the day, God's going to give you someone that you're supposed to be with. And if you're saying no, and it's like this perfect guy, the perfect pick, but he's not blonde, and like, if I would have done that, I would have missed out on Jeff, you know, so.
Or, like, they have to love this certain thing and this thing and this thing. You just realize as further you get into marriage, that stuff doesn't matter. I want to be with someone that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning. I enjoy being around them.
Yeah.
I love their voice. You know, I think they're gorgeous. Like, I'm attracted both, you know, intellectually and physically, emotionally. All that stuff is so important. The hobby stuff matters less. You know, if I would have been like, I need a girl that golfs, like, I would have been my pool would have been so limited, you know, or I need a girl that does this or that. Yeah, it's like, man, you miss out on so many amazing girls, or you miss out on so many amazing guys. And I just think it matters a lot.
What would you say is the balance, though, or is there a balance? Because I think sometimes as a single person, like, the first person that comes along, almost like for me, I've had people ask me out where I'm like, I know for a fact I will kill you. Like, we will just not get along at all. But there is that anxiety of like, well, will there be anyone else? So how, I don't know, can you speak to that? Because I think that that's a fear that can kind of come up. And so how do you know what are the things to hold on to, or does that kind of make sense? Or like, you know, is your list or the values the things that like guides you? Like, what are is it okay to have deal breakers, or are you just being too picky? Are you being like, how do you just find that balance? I don't know. It's a kind of a loaded question, but
I think it's okay to have some non-negotiables, but at the same time, I would say, ladies, like, granted, there's a guy you're like, dude, I'm just not attracted to this guy. He's kind of a chump. Like, you know, I know it's like I've seen him around enough to where I know, like, hey, this isn't going to work out. But even someone who you don't know that doesn't fit the bill, and he's got the boldness to, like, ask you out to coffee. And this is where, as, like, Christian community, we just have to be very careful, and we need to guard our single people. Like, I think we can do a better job of creating a healthy environment for dating, because it will allow you to go out for coffee and get to know someone in a healthy way, and not everyone appearing like, Lydia and so-and-so were at this coffee shop, and I think they're talking.
If I ever went on a date in Kona, I'd literally go to, like, Hilo.
It's
take it away from.
That's what I would. I don't know if that answered your question really at all. I think it's okay to have. I'll say this and then you go. I think it's okay to have some, like, non-negotiables and some boundaries, but at the same time, don't let them be so strict that you miss out on like an opportunity just to get to know someone.
Yeah, that's good.
That's exactly what I would say. And I would say you're going to know pretty soon on if those non-negotiables are like not there. And then I think just...
And that's why you keep it so low pressure in the beginning.
Yeah, and that's
low
why
pressure, it's like...
And like he said earlier, it's like that 90% fun, 10% serious. I remember when Jeff and I started dating, we were like having some pretty serious conversations right away. And who was it that was...
I had a mentor of mine that talked to me, you know, I was like, give me some dating advice. And he says, your first 3 months of dating need to be like 90%, and if not more, like 6 months maybe. Like, should be like 90% fun, getting to know each other,
going and doing things. Yeah.
Like, it's like, stay away from like the romantic dinner. Like, stay away from the, you know, alone night, candlelit. Like, that's just
it's
like... It's
almost like premature to do that right away.
Yeah, it's like that, you know, don't awaken love before it so desires. Like, you can, a lot of like the unhealthiness in like probably Christian relationships could just be alleviated by just having more fun.
Yeah.
And being less like, this has to be the most romantic date ever, candlelit dinner. It's like, no, like, why don't you go to the zoo?
Yeah.
Like, that's great during the day.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you go kayaking?
Yeah.
You know, like, some of those things, it's just like, you get to see how someone interacts in like the everyday, which is what you're going to be with. You're not going to have the
candlelit dinner
every night, especially you have kids. You definitely, like, you know.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I think something that I've noticed in certain Christian circles especially is it's like everyone almost like dates without calling it dating. So when dating comes in, dating is like to the pressure of like a commit, like honestly almost like engagement. It's like,
it's crazy.
Because, but then it's like we've lifted the bar to there where it's like if we were able to actually just pull it down and be okay with calling things what they are or just like getting to know people, I think it would totally change some of that. But yeah, I think some of that is a little messy. Okay, now we're getting into like the hinting, the green lighting, some of that. So I guess I would maybe ask like, what is hinting? Or maybe I'll just define it because then I think people, right? So hinting is like letting someone know that you're interested. So you're doing the thing, the nails are done, you're hanging out. You've got this friend and you guys get along and now you're like, I kind of want to like let him know that I'm open to him.
Interested?
Yeah. Like let him know that you're interested in him. Because I think a lot of guys, at least I've heard, is they're really scared of rejection. So then a lot of guys won't ask or they're passive. It's kind of this mix of like fear or passivity. And so how do you like healthily let someone know? Is it just a straight up conversation? Or how do you like hint?
Do you want me to go?
You go and then I'll close her out.
Okay, well, I think for girls, it probably feels scary to put yourself out there in that way. I think that, it ultimately at the end of the day, like love and like dating and marriage and all of that, it's so vulnerable and it's risky. And so I think in the way of like wanting to know that you're a guy, like wanting to let a guy know that you're interested in him, it's like that already feels like initially like kind of scary. But I think I would just personally, like, I think just being friendly to them, I think a little bit of flirting is okay. I would say, if you're like, I heard this like old school thing once and they were like, just touch the guy's like arm. Like, when you're interacting, like, just a quick little like show of affection. But like it was like, to like know that like you're like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Like it just like almost more like interacting with that person intentionally, so that they would know like, oh wow, this girl like touched my arm like a few times. And if he's like interested also, he might be like reading into that. So that could be like a good sign of like, hey, like I enjoy being with you. Like, oh my gosh, you're so funny. Like I think just like kind of just approaching them very openly. And obviously you don't want to cross certain boundaries. You don't want to be inappropriate. Like I think there's a way where you can have discernment as a woman of God. Like, okay, how do I interact with this guy? Like show him like, hey, I'm kind of interested and I'm going to put myself out there. And I've had, before I met Jeff, I dated a couple guys and I would just like try to like be fun, interact, like just be like, hey, like I enjoy being around you, and I want you to know that I enjoy being around you. And so laughing at his jokes, you know, just like, I don't know. So I think I would say like there's a way to like friendly put yourself out there, and not be super weird about it or like awkward, you know.
And this is very natural, right? Like turn on Animal Planet. National Geographic.
Oh, we're going to Animal Planet.
Well, we're not going there, but like every animal has a mating call, right?
Oh.
Like there is like a way to like, so ladies,
let
as
them
you're
know,
at the
girls.
coffee shop, just go
At the beach.
you know, like there is a way to let someone know, you know, but there's also don't be like so like because it is risk, like you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
But there is an option that maybe that guy's just not into you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And I would say one thing too is if there's a specific guy that you like and you are paying attention to, then don't interact with him differently than like all the other guys.
Come on.
I think sometimes girls are like so excited to get into a relationship where they're flirty with like 6 different guys, but they really like one of them, and they're like, oh,
guys do the same too.
Yeah, and so I would say like if you are interested in someone and it's you need to make it intentional, and like so don't flirt with the other guys. Like flirt with the guy you actually want to like try dating, you know.
And when you're in this context, you have to know that things that you do are putting out signals. You're putting out signals to every human interaction you have. You are giving a signal. You're saying, I like you, I don't like you, keep talking to me, stop talking to me, I'm ending this conversation, hey, I'm asking another question, open-ended, I want to keep this conversation going. Oh, there was a brush of the, so, right? Everything that we do in I'm inviting you to this thing, I'm, you know, like one-on-one, like all of these things give signals, and if we lack that self-awareness, you're gonna let the guy down, you're gonna let girls down, like, and it just becomes a real emotional mess. Is if you can just become self-aware that you're giving signals in everything you do. Now, don't be afraid, but just know, like, hey, if you do this is giving someone permission to think something. And I know we're being friendly, but without open communication, things can get messy. And so I would just encourage, like, be self-aware, know that you are giving signals.
Wow, that's really good. Reflecting on some parts of my life.
We're getting a little convicted there.
I'm
giving too many signals.
No, the opposite. If I like someone, they're my enemy.
Oh my god, that's unhealthy.
It's okay. We'll talk about that later.
You're so cute. I'm not coming with you to the beach.
I'm never gonna see you anymore. Bye. Okay.
Is that like a generational thing? Like, do people know what you're talking about?
Like what I do.
Yeah, would that be common?
I'll be honest, it's kind of interesting. This is now the little debrief from the single. Listening to some of these things, I'm like, okay, one thing, even the whole like look nice or whatever, like some of the like cultural, like I don't need no man, like some of that like stuff.
Feminism.
Yeah, no, some of that it's like kind of so ingrained. And then also just like that fear of rejection, where for me, I've noticed that I'm like, if I like someone, I will, and I've actually had this conversation with a lot of girls where I'm like, why is it that the guy who I could literally give a rip about, I am the most charming, beautiful, like I am just the most confident woman in the room. And then there's a guy who like, I get so intimidated. I shut down. I can't speak, can't talk. I'm so awkward. I'm so afraid of saying something wrong. So I'm silent. I run away. So I think that's probably just like fear of rejection, like some of that stuff. And some of that is just the like maturing, because dating is so vulnerable. It's so scary. Like stepping into a space like that is, just really, really scary. And so, yes, I do think it is like a very common thing. I feel like I've talked to lots of other girls about that, but I'm realizing I'm like, okay, there's just obviously some things too that I need to grow in or. So this is good content. This is good content. We'll be writing this down. Okay. So I guess I have another question in this sense of hinting green light would be, So someone asked, is hinting taking away a guy's opportunity to take a risk? So that would be one question. Another question was like, what even is the definition of pursuit? So I guess like, how do you know someone's pursuing you? I guess it would be from the girl's perspective. I'd love to know your thoughts on what percentage should be pursuing. Is it 50-50? When you're not like in marriage, but when you're like starting, should it be 50-50? Should the guy be more of the pursuer? And then like, is hinting or flirting or putting yourself out there actually just taking, it's like the whole like mountain, you guys heard the mountain analogy. We are all women up on mountains.
Yeah.
And we've had guys say, well, could you throw a rope? Like, could you throw a rope down?
Yeah.
And so there's been some controversy over the rope.
Ooh, the rope. Okay.
Of like, okay, how much is too much versus just like, I want a man who's like, yes, I want to, climb the mountain versus, what, I guess what should be the percentage? These are a lot of questions. I would say start with what should be the percentage of pursuit and maybe how do you know someone's pursuing you? What should pursuit look like?
Well, we should start with the hint, I think.
Yeah.
Because initially when you just asked that, I'm like, okay, does giving someone a hint take away the risk for the man? And I would say absolutely not. I would say when you're at a stoplight and it's red, you stop. When the light turns green, you go. And so
when it's yellow, you go faster.
I don't know. We'll
Kidding.
see. Debatable. But I think at the end of the day, like girls, like the guy's not going to go for it if there's literally no hint at all. I think maybe in some cases they'll try, but I think it actually...
They do try. Some do.
Some
y'all
do
are
bold.
bold.
Not saying the other guys aren't bold, but
Oh, yeah.
I would say that I think that it is helpful for a guy to know that the girl's interested. And I don't think that it's not like the knowledge of knowing she's interested doesn't rob the risk. I would say the risk in itself is going for it, but for them to know there's a green light, like an open door to go through, the risk is walking through the door towards it. It's not knowing the door's open.
Okay.
So I would say you're not robbing a risk from a guy if you're just letting them know that you're like interested. I would say his risk is just the start of the pursuit towards you. I don't know if you have...
I think I feel like I could answer like most of this under like communication is so important. Like the pursuit thing, like 50%, I do think a guy has a greater role as we model Jesus, and Jesus's pursuit after us was radical. And I think as a man, our pursuit needs to be radical towards a woman. But I think a lot of this is like, we just live in a generation where in a moment where we don't communicate. And I think so much like we just have these expectations that are not communicated. So much of our tension in our marriage has been around unmet expectations and the lack of communicating expectations.
Yeah.
So much could just be problem solved by talking. And we're just like, no, you should pursue me. Why don't, like, this might be a guy who comes from, like, honestly, like, a super broken past. Maybe he's homeschooled, like, his, he just never had anyone tell him about, he'd never seen a girl before. Like, I don't know, other than his mom and his sisters. Like, I just think, like, have grace on each other and be able to communicate. And there's nothing wrong if you have to talk about what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So I would just say, like, I do think a man has a role as we model after Jesus to pursue extravagantly. And that's hard work. Like, Rich would tell you, I mean, like, it's hard work in marriage, in dating, because you're pursuing for the long haul. And there's been times I haven't pursued Rachel the way that I should. And that's a growth thing. That's me stepping into, like, well, how does Jesus pursue me? And I want to pursue my wife. I want to pursue the woman that I'm interested in with the same zeal and passion that Jesus pursued me. But so much can be fixed by, I don't even know I could feel like I'm pursuing Rachel perfectly.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't feel pursued at all. That's happened. I feel like, no, our marriage is really great. And she's like, you don't pursue me. And I'm like, frick. That's happened.
Yeah.
But that, I don't know that. Because
Yeah.
my upbringing is, I've got divorced parents. You know, like I didn't have a great picture of marriage and dating. And that's just a reality that honestly so many young people have grown up in. They don't have the model.
Yeah.
Your parents were together and have, you know, a great marriage. And so there's just, that is different. And we just have to communicate.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong. I think dudes, there's nothing wrong with failing. Nothing wrong with that. And if you're open to growth and growing and allow your wife, your girlfriend, your fiance, whatever, to speak into that, then, and you're always willing to grow, that's the best pursuit you can give your wife, is being willing to grow.
Yeah, teachable and humble.
That was for the married men. Being willing to grow
Yeah.
is the greatest gift you can give your wife. And I think as a young person, single,
Yeah, what
the,
about
greatest,
the singles?
the greatest thing you can give your future spouse is willing to grow. And the humility, like, hey, you're not going to date perfectly.
Yeah.
You're not going to do engagement perfectly. You're not going to do marriage perfectly. That perfectionist mentality needs to be like ripped out of our expectations of ourselves. And we're on a pilgrimage. We're on a journey. We are not just trying to get to this destination. It doesn't say start and then destination. No, there's like turn right, turn left, turn right. You take a wrong turn, rerouting. Like, that's a part of the process, and that's where we grow as humans, as followers of Jesus, as disciples. So I think as single men and single women, like, be willing to grow.
Yeah, that's so good. I think dating can be such a beautiful and fun part of growing, because there's things you can like talk about, but unless you're like in it, you're not going to learn.
Yeah.
And so I think that there is something to that, trying and failing and dating and getting to know people, and you get to know more of yourself in it. And I think it can be a really fun experience. Okay, maybe this might be one of our last questions. I want to go back to the pursuit. I'm curious what you guys think. What percentage should be pursuit? Yeah. And I guess, like, how you're putting yourself out there and you're not getting anything back. Why?
Communication. What's the expectation? Like, for some, like, what are you expecting in this pursuit process? It's not 100% the guy, right? That's like, you got to text back, right? Like, you can't just leave a homie on red, you know? That's not...
Well, he should know.
Right, right. Like, that's unfair. It's like, well, you need to pursue me. It's like, yeah, like, put some effort in, though, right? So I don't think it's about, don't even...
Well, I would say even before, like, we're dating or married or anything. This is, like, in just that beginning...
I'll say this. I think the man should be an initiator. I think we should... Jesus, right, I just go back to Scripture. Jesus initiated something with us. We didn't initiate it, right? We responded to what was initiated. And the response that's a different percentage. The initiation, I think, should be a man. I think you should be the one to, like, I called Rachel's dad before I took her on a date. I think that's a lost art, and that's something that I think he still talks. We've been married 6 years.
Almost 6 years, yeah.
And he still talks about it. It being like one of the most like it's like, I didn't know people still did this. And it's like, there's just something about that that, man, as a man, is just so like core of honor, respect, winning a woman's heart.
Like the hunt.
Like, yeah, it's like also the whole role of, you know, that a woman would leave her father and mother and comes under the care and under your nurture. Like, that's the role of a man. We talk about submission. We can maybe talk about that in our next podcast. But like, it's not about like, now I've got this servant girl that's just following me around and serving me. No, she's coming under my nurture and care. She's leaving the care of her father and she's coming under the care of me. And I just think that's something where there needs to be big initiation on the man's side, but in the same aspect, I do think there needs to be some response on the woman's side. So I'm not going to give percentages, but I would say initiation needs to be the man, but a woman needs to respond.
Yeah.
And that happens through communication.
No, that's good. That's really good. There's a couple more questions I think would be really good for, I think you guys should do one on marriage. I've got a couple marriage questions, but I think this is good. A little start dating.
Yeah.
Start a little,
The
little
last
teaser
thing
for you, a little teaser.
was a lot of girls said, do you have someone for me to date? Can you suggest someone?
I'm
So I'm just saying, Jeff and Rachel, maybe make a list.
Call us.
We'll take applications. We'll essentially, we'll just be matchmakers.
Oh,
I'll
perfect.
say this: if there's any single guys, Lydia is close to our family. She's 24 years old.
Stunning.
Lives in Kona, Hawaii. She's beautiful.
She's moving to
She's
Nashville.
bubbly. She is smart.
It's okay, you can say it.
Why can't I say it?
No, you can.
She
you
probably
can.
has an announcement.
I just have an
Oh.
announcement. But you
Oh.
can. This can
No,
be
it's
the
fine.
announcement.
No.
Lydia's moving to
She lives in
Nashville.
Kona.
She is great with kids.
Wow.
She is a hard worker. She is driven, and
Can drive.
if you want to take her on a date, you can DM Rachel, the Chica Channel, myself.
Should we make a Chica
or-
Channel dating app? Is that the
that
next
could be
thing?
the future, or
So-
just slide straight into her DMs.
At Lydia Malave.
Yeah,
Underscore or
she
no?
just
No,
went viral
just at Lydia
on
Malave.
TikTok.
Oh yeah.
Don't look at that. No, they're going to lose interest if they look
Well,
at that.
you know they need to know you.
Well, guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll have a couple more.
Let us know in the comments if you like this stuff.
And if you like it, we'll do more.
And
Marriage,
don't forget to
engagement,
like,
dating.
share, subscribe, comment.
The whole meal deal.
Follow Rachel on Instagram.